So hello everyone, to everyone who just logged on. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome officially to our third annual Night Before National Showcase. This year it's a little bit different because we are dedicating this year's showcase to our alumni. So welcome to all the people that I have had a chance to meet both in person and virtually, welcome. And to all the alumni I have not had a chance to meet, I cannot wait to get a chance to know you either tonight or over the course of the weekend. Now, the showcase is actually a kickoff event of a much larger weekend. So our team is actually getting ready for AFA. Whew. For those of you all who have been there, you all know what that feels like, but it is next week. The time is upon us, and we are working really hard to make sure that every event and every slot that we take is prepared and ready to go. And some of you will be working with us over the course of the weekend. So we are very grateful and lucky for all of you who are donating your time and effort to be with us today. Before we get started, I'm gonna start off with some initial thank yous. Of course, thank all of you for showing up. And of course, our alumni. Next, I would like to thank the Director of Forensics, Sam Nelson. Hello, Sam, thank you. And also we have another special guest, which is the Associate Dean of ILR Outreach, and that is Ariel Afgar. So thank you so much for joining us. Yes, we love to have all of the support. Now, before I turn it over to the kids, because this is literally their show and I want them to shine, I just want to brag on them a little bit. So when we started at the beginning of this year, we had over 20 something students, which is like absolutely insane. And both myself or the students, neither of us knew how to do a program online. So when it came to shifting to a virtual tournament and virtual competition, we had to learn how to figure it out together. And I am proud to say that not only did we figure out how to do it together, but we were actually a leader in the community. So when everything went virtual, the Cornell speech team was the first program in the country to host an online tournament. So we were the pioneers of it. We created a lot of resources and documents, and we were sharing it with other programs on how to make that transition as well. So I'm very proud of the students for helping me not only build a program here at Cornell, but also being leaders across the community. I couldn't be more proud of them and what they have accomplished. Not only did they defend their state championship title, woo! But we have over 30 events qualified for AFA, and we have over 60 events qualified to NFA. Yes, these students, some of them that are going to be competing tonight, yes, over 60 events quals for nationals. That is a huge accomplishment for a team of our size, and I can't take any credit for it. Our co-captains, Ben and Chloe, they are excellent leaders. They literally make my life so much easier. I literally could not do this job without them. And also we have student coaches. Since it is me, we have some other students who have stepped up and said, hey, we want to try to help out and make sure that everyone has what they need on their team. So we have 6 different student coaches along with our co-captains, and that's how we make all the magic happen. And I'm excited to show you all what we've been working on this year. So thank you all so much for coming out. And now I will turn it over to our co-host for this evening, our first year students, Margot and Carson.
Well, hello all, and what a way to start. And welcome to the Cornell Speech and Debate Society's Speech Showcase for the alumni. Now, as many of you already know, speech is an extraordinarily interesting type of competition. It's not debate. It's really not like anything else, any other format of talking that you can do in college. And that's because it's a variety show. It has so many different unique ways to do it, so many different events that you can do. In a lot of ways, what you're gonna find is that the speech team and speech in general is a bit like the circus. And many of us have come from our backwater towns and left our families to come here and join the circus. And something else you all know is that once you join the circus, you're always a member of the circus. In the circus, we're family. Now, Margot and I are going to be your hosts for tonight. Think of us as your Ringling siblings, your Barnum buddies, the people that are going to guide you through this world of speech in a way that probably won't make sense, but that will be entertaining. So, first off, we're going to get into our ringleader on the team, Chloe Washaba. Now, she's our captain. She is one of the most interesting people you will ever meet. And more importantly than that, she's one of the only ones of us who understands STEM. She is incredibly intelligent. She's someone who can do a variety of things. And more importantly than that, she's going to be performing for you first tonight. And Margot will get into what exactly she'll be doing.
Yeah, so what you're going to see from Chloe is one of our prepared events. It's what's called a public address, and it's an info. So Chloe is going to inform you on something STEM that is going to blow your mind. Now, the first time I heard this speech was sitting next to my roommate at the time, who was in a chemical engineering, and let me tell you, her mind was blown. So without further ado, you're going to hear a 10-minute info from Chloe, and I'll pass the floor and the mic right over to her.
Thank you, Margot and Carson. Can you guys all hear me all right? Great. In 1969, researchers at UCLA typed the letter L into a computer terminal and hit send. They called up their buddies at Stanford. Did you get it? Yes? Great. Okay, next letter, O. Did you get that one? Yes? Fantastic. Next letter, G. The system crashed. That was the beginning of the classical internet. The transmission of data from one point to another, as described by Dr. Stephanie Werner to Quantum Magazine on September 18, 2019, is a set of chaotic processes that take place in data servers and fiber optic cables around the globe. But Dr. Werner and her team stand at a stimulating frontier of science, transmuting the classical internet to behave by the laws of quantum physics. Her research is ushering in a new era of communication, one where we transmit quantum information on a quantum internet. Quantum information is entirely distinct from the zeros and ones that form the backbone of the internet that we're using right now. Dr. David Alschwam, on an interview to Use Chicago's Big Brain podcast on September 7th, 2020, describes the difference as being between black and white and color. On July 23rd, 2020, the United States Department of Energy announced its Quantum Internet Blueprint, a plan to streamline the development of a prototype quantum internet within a decade. With billions of dollars of investments by China, Japan, South Korea, EU, and a whole host of private investors, the quantum internet may be on the horizon. So, at hazard of saying the word quantum 54 times, let's engage with the physics, applications, and implications of the quantum internet. The idea for a quantum internet was born back in 1935 with the publication of the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paper. Their idea was to harness the distinct physical properties of atoms, electrons, photons to hold information. Quantum physics is abstract, so we'll first just understand why quantum information is different from normal or classical information, and second, why the quantum internet doesn't exist yet. First, what is quantum information? Classical information is a binary. Something is either there or it isn't, and that's coded into zeros and ones. But some systems, like an individual atom, can encode information in a spectrum between 0 and 1. What you actually measure is a probability of getting 0 or 1 dependent on that distribution. For example, a photon, a burst of light, can be polarized in any direction. Think sunglasses. What you'd actually measure in this system is how much the light is polarized in one specific direction. These systems are called quantum bits, or qubits. And CNBC of April 7, 2020 explains their advantage. Learning how to calculate with decimals instead of just whole numbers, qubits are a whole new language altogether. And quantum devices are fluent in nature's native tongue. Qubits employ the language of the universe. Second, qubits are notoriously fragile. On the aforementioned podcast, Dr. David Alschwam cautions that the act of looking at, measuring a piece of quantum information destroys it. Just like the classical internet, the quantum internet will send information over fiber optic cables. However, over time and space in those cables, a signal will degrade to random noise. It dies. Quantum information must be amplified every few kilometers in order for it to reach its destination. The technology to do so without looking at, measuring, and destroying the message is called a quantum repeater, and it's an active area of research that science speak for doesn't exist yet. And they said we would have flying cars by 2001. Even when the pieces are developed, you're not going to have a quantum internet hookup at home. That's because the quantum internet is best at solving specific classes of problems. Let's look at some of the earliest applications: data security and quantum algorithms. First, on a quantum internet, the faithful transmission of sensitive data is guaranteed by the laws of physics. The Scientific American on September 19, 2019 explains a pair of qubits can be entangled, meaning that if you are to separate them by a very large distance and take the measurement of one, that information automatically appears on the other. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. When leveraged in a seminal protocol known as quantum key distribution, entanglement allows banks and governments to not only send data with perfect security, but also know when a third party is trying to listen in, because they look at, measure, and destroy the message. Unlike the humans who operate it, the quantum internet is virtually unhackable. Second, quantum algorithms. Quantum computers have verifiably surpassed the computational ability of classical computers, but they don't scale up. Harvard professor Mikhail Lukin in 2019 cautions that quantum computers will likely only ever have a few hundred qubits. But networking them together in an internet opens up new classes of algorithms, artificial intelligence, and data science. On the single issue of medium-term climate action, the Boston Consulting Group on January 22nd, 2020 explains that researchers could simulate new molecules for carbon capture, optimize global supply chains for energy efficiency, and predict the weather accurately. The quantum internet can realize and predict what our future will look like. The footprints of the quantum internet can already be seen around the globe. In Europe, the Quantum Internet Alliance spans 8 countries. Underneath the Chicago suburbs lay Argonne Laboratories' 52-mile quantum loop. Let's look at some implications. First, national security is inherently correlated with quantum progress. The ability to communicate sensitive intelligence and individual data over impenetrably secure channels is crucial to a nation's welfare. Enter China, whose companies, the Brookings Institution on September 18, 2019, says are utterly dominating the US when it comes to number of quantum patents published in the field of quantum communications from 2012 to 16. China's intense efforts will ensure their triumph in a scientific drama that extends well beyond their borders. The MIT Technology Review on January 4, 2020 argues that we can build a shortcut to the quantum internet by putting part of it in space. Satellites could serve as low-loss waypoints to beam quantum information around the globe with lasers. A decades-long technological campaign to upend the global geopolitical order? Quantum technology is the 21st century's space race. Second, The demand for public utility jeopardizes the industry's future. We may face a quantum winter. Nature magazine on November 19th, 2019, if companies and governments alike do not properly manage the hype associated with quantum technology. Their analysis found that venture capitalists have increased their investments in quantum technology fourfold in recent years. But much of that money is starting to go towards startups who exclusively develop quantum software. A paper by researchers Evan McCory et al. Found that this could create a bubble where the physical reality of the quantum computing hardware is decades behind the investor's endgame. We are so fixated on getting a product to market now that we can't ensure a sustainable, equitable future for the industry. Like any good researcher, I ought to declare my conflicts of interests. Investment in quantum technology is my job security. After looking at the physics, applications, and implications of the quantum internet, we can embrace a new age of technology that harnesses the laws of nature themselves. Let's watch the quantum internet come into being, one experiment at a time.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our ringleader, one of two. So next up, moving on, now that your mind has been blown by the wonders of the quantum internet, we have our next event in our circus today. So what you are going to hear is from Glenn. Glenn is a senior, our team senior this year in the ILR school, and anyone who knows Glenn will remember his energy. He's basically a human ball of energy who walks into every room and immediately establishes what he knows. And that's why for our circus today, you can consider Glenn our man shot out of the cannon. And I'll pass it off to Carson to explain what event you're going to hear from Glenn.
Now, what Ben is going to do for you today is a persuasive speech, also known as a purse, although that much energy could never be contained in any one container. What Glenn is going to do is essentially do what any good man shot out of a cannon would do and persuade you that what he's doing isn't dangerous. When he finishes his speech, you will be thoroughly convinced that his course of action is the best one, and probably the only safe one too. Take it away, Glenn.
Thank you. That was one hell of an introduction. Hello, everyone. Can you see and hear me, please? After 31 years of working for Schuylkill Valley Sports, Phil Snyder, like many others, was laid off due to continued uncertainty of COVID-19. While others filed for unemployment, Phil was sued. Schuylkill sued him for allegedly misappropriating trade secrets by breaching a non-compete contract. Non-competes are work provisions that ban a worker from starting or working for a competing business for a number of years after leaving their current job. By putting non-competes in contracts, firms can ensure that their intellectual property and trade secrets are protected. But while firms seek to protect their intellectual property, those most vulnerable are those who created the capital in the first place, workers. A 2019 study by the Economic Policy Institute explained that over 50% of employers require some form of non-compete. Over 30% require all their workers to sign non-competes. A quarter of these employers pay wages less than $13 per hour. And over 50% include arbitration clauses that prevent workers from contesting non-competes in court. Firms use non-competes as restrictive covenants to stifle competition and control workers, and they must be abolished. So today, let's unveil some causes, reveal some effects, and enable some solutions. For as the aforementioned study noted, non-competes are part of a disturbing trend of firms requiring workers to sign away their rights. Thuan Do, a physician, was found guilty for starting his own practice after he left the hospital he worked at. Bloomberg Law explains on August 19, 2020, that non-competes in the medical field are a growing concern, especially during a global pandemic, for two main reasons. First, they unambiguously favor employers. Non-competes have a primary purpose of protecting employers from competition. And while most states require that non-competes be reasonable, they do not explain what reasonable is. They also do not explain what kind of knowledge is protected. The terms are intentionally vague to allow the employer determine the value of information and how long this sentence should be. Most non-competes last a period of about a year to 3. That is 3 years of potentially not working in a field that your skills were meant for. There is no federal law that standardizes this procedure, and there is no limit on what employment level you have to be affected, giving employers full control over your talent and livelihood. Next, non-competes restrict the market by giving workers no choice. Bloomberg Law explained that all but 3 states expressly permit non-competes. And so you are most likely to find a non-compete embedded in your contract under such vague language as unique trade secrets and important proprietary information. Even when a worker is likely to negotiate their way out of a non-compete, they have to choose between getting the job and litigation. Because unless your state expressly forbids non-competes, you have to sign if you want the job. NBC News put it this way on January 11th, 2020. Firms cannot require you to sign non-competes. They can, however, terminate or not hire you if you do not sign, revealing the coercive power that management has. The Economic Innovations Group in a 2019 study explained that over 40% of Americans have turned down job offers because they are scared of non-competes. Non-competes have 2 undesirable effects: reducing worker bargaining power and feeding into economic instability. First, non-competes weaken worker bargaining power. Not only do workers not have a choice, there is almost no grievance procedure for those who feel they have been negatively affected. Even when a non-compete is in disrepute, an employer can get a temporary injunction that will prevent the worker from starting a new job until the case is settled in court. Unfortunately, their cases have to go through the American legal system. You know what? Let's not even go there. Yes, a worker can get a union to bargain for them, but many employers include in the contract that workers have to negotiate their grievances individually. Non-competes are diabolically crafted to weaken worker bargaining position, control them, and with a threat of jeopardy to their future job prospects, prevent them from leaving. Next, non-competes create personal economic destabilization. Because of the pandemic, many employers were able to lay off workers without severance, giving employees a legitimate claim of unemployment. But surprise, many employers still want to enforce non-compete. Translation: firms can remain selfish and proprietary even if it means some of their workers are unemployed. Costco, for example, says they make their workers sign non-compete because they pay premium wages. But Business Insider reviewed in January 2020 that Costco only pays a starting wage of $15 per hour. $15 per hour should not give an employer unrestricted control to determine a worker's talent and livelihood. The Society for Human Resource Management, in a January 15, 2021 article, celebrated DC's new bill that is going to ban non-compete in the state territory and expressed hope that Biden's administration will pass some federal law. Here are some solutions to enable and empower workers. First, states must clarify protections under non-competes. A 2020 bill by the Washington State Senate limited non-competes to only highly paid workers. They explained that workers who made over $100,000 per year are probably those who have access to information that a firm might want to protect. Firms should not be able to restrict every worker from leaving. In the link I would share after this speech, you'll find a list of states that permit non-competes and a link to contacts for state and local representatives. Given that federal law may not pass anytime soon, let's call our local representatives and convince them to change the law. Next, contractual literacy. Non-competes work because they exploit ambiguities and misconceptions about signing contracts. But Brookings Institute in a December 2020 study explained that in communities that highlighted contractual literacy, non-competes were less common. In light of this, I have included some tips and questions for you to navigate non-competes at your own workplace. Because non-competes target low-paid workers who may not be educated, I'm hoping that these tips can help you help them. I have also included some examples of non-competes to give you a fair idea and questions for clarification and negotiation. And I can't stress this enough. Read every contract you are given to sign at work. Because even if your employer does not want to discuss with you, they now know that you know, and so they cannot play you. When firms prioritize preserving capital, they forget the resource that actually matters, workers. And today, after analyzing causes, effects, and solutions, it's pretty clear that many firms coerce workers to voluntarily surrender their rights. And in a time where many are still struggling with the effects of the pandemic, it makes no sense that a firm can restrict a worker and determine where they value. In the discussion of Phil Snyder's case, the judge asked the employer why they felt the need to enforce their non-compete, given that unemployment numbers were at a 7-decade high. The answer is simple: because we allow them to.
Ladies and gentlemen, boom. Now, those were some explosive ideas, but fear not, ladies and gentlemen, we are not through with the high-flying action tonight. While we just saw a man shot out of a cannon, I would like to introduce you next to our other captain, Bert. Now, Bert is our trapeze artist in this circus. He is a philosophy major from Denver, and he is very much the speech team's philosopher king. He will, no amount of help is too small for Bert to do for us, and no idea is too high for him to refuse to soar above. Now, as our resident trapeze artist, he is going to be performing some very graceful stunts for you today, and I'll leave Margot to explain those to you.
Yeah, so Bert is our team interp expert, and what you're going to see is him do the core interp event of prose. Now, a prose focuses on storytelling, and it's similar to the trapeze in that it starts you out on a platform where you know where you stand, and it takes you on a journey through the air, flying to peaks and lows where you think you might fall until you catch on to that final idea that your interp is presenting. And that's what I think Bert does so well. So I'll pass it off to him to tell us a story.
Thank you very much, Marco, and a story I shall tell. And before I begin, can I just confirm that I'm seen and heard clearly? Perfect. Something nobody tells you is that when you die, a death in which your face and body are utterly maimed, you get to choose your new face in heaven. Your body as well, because the body you're given corresponds with your chosen face. But skin color, a nose shape, lips, teeth, it's all up to you. That's the silver lining. Adam and I were vacationing in Australia. It was a crocodile who murdered me, who clamped down on my face and body with its many sharp teeth and crushed my bones, left my face incredibly fucked. So how does this work? I asked. Texas is open 100%, everything. These were the words tweeted by the state's governor, Greg Abbott, on March 2nd, 2021. And regardless of whether we agree with the decision, these 5 little words have become a harbinger of our imminent reemergence from an isolating year of COVID-19 response. Yet, as businesses reopen and folks get back to work, we must come to terms with what's left of who we were before this pandemic. Many lives have changed in the past year. Maybe it was plans cut short by a quarantine order, or worse yet, the loss of a loved one. Together, though, we can help remind ourselves that sometimes the things we think we've left behind might just still be around, if only as a feeling. My Dear You by Rachel Kahn. I wanted to know what the new face would be for. I mean, would I be eating with my new mouth? Would I be tanning with my new skin? I thought I just saw David Bowie ride by on a bicycle just then. But was it David Bowie or someone who just chosen his face? I went with brownish green eyes with speckles. They had a little computer program for this, and all I had to do was drag and drop the features I liked into this shopping cart type basket. I went with my original style of ears because Adam had always liked them. I changed my teeth though, because they were ugly. Made them slightly wider and more rectangular. Adam would have hated this, but well, he wasn't here now, was he? We had just promised underneath a gazebo in front of most of the people we cared about that we would spend the rest of our lives with each other. And it is true that I did. I kept my end of the bargain. I wasn't sure if I still wanted to be a Chinese person, so I saved that detail for last. It seemed a little unethical to get to choose. I closed my eyes and clicked a random spot on the screen. Chinese, it said, and my eyes narrowed at the edges into the almond-shaped ones I'd had my whole life. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little crestfallen. As time went on, I could picture faces from life less vividly. My mother's was the first to go, and then my father's, even though I'd known their faces for 30 years, even though I would have told you that I knew their faces intimately, almost as intimately as I knew my own. In the beginning here, though, I'd see a man and think to myself, his hands look like Adam's, or his chest looks like Adam's. But after a decade, I couldn't remember his hands or his chest or his height. I mean, was he tall? Was he short? I held on to the memory of his face. Adam's face. I swore I'd hold on to that one forever. I would try to remember the facts about my former husband. What was his name again? I keep forgetting, so I'd have to check, right? Adam, I wrote in tiny, nearly imperceptible letters on my bedroom wall, but the janitor kept erasing it. So then I wrote Adam on a tiny slip of paper and tucked it underneath my fitted sheet and remembered to pull it out every laundry day, which was Tuesdays. You might think I'm a little crazy, but he was the love, of my life. On a Tuesday, though, I forgot the slip of paper. And when I got back to my room, well, my sheets were freshly laundered, but that slip of paper was gone. I got drunk on artisanal gin, and I didn't cry, even though I could not believe myself. You stupid bitch, I told myself that night, incredibly drunk. How could you? As time went on, things started to change. Without even trying it, I sort of met a guy. Hi, I'm Adam, he said. Hi, Adam. Adam asked, did I want to have dinner sometime? I don't know, I started to say. I'm new here, he said, very kindly. And I was about to say, I'm new here too, except I'd been here for almost 50 years. Adam asked pretty new to death questions like, so you can just eat whatever you want here without gaining any weight? Yup. And they do your laundry for you? Yeah. You remind me of someone, Adam said. Remind? Now there's a foreign concept. I mean, I knew it meant something to some people, but I couldn't put my finger on having ever felt it. Where are you from again? Adam asked. California, I said. No, but like where in California? He asked. I don't remember, I said honestly. Oh, well, it's okay, he said. I miss my kids, he said. It's tough, I responded. Oh, I mean, I couldn't remember. Was it tough? It's tough, he agreed. A dog came up to us. It was without a collar, and Adam stroked its golden head, so I reached down too. The dog stopped. It stepped back and looked at me. It started snarling and then barking. This dog was specifically barking at me. This was exasperating, but familiar. The dog, unfortunately, was a racist. There are racist dogs here, Adam said, skeptical. I shrugged. There are racist dogs everywhere. Adam tossed the racist dog a swatch of meat. The racist dog changed its tune. The racist dog was now begging us for more. Maybe we should keep the racist dog, Adam said. Keep the racist dog? I asked. He's, reformed. Maybe he can make it up to you. That had always been my husband's strength, I suddenly recalled. He was so good at soothing you. And at the same time, you weren't 100% sure that he really got it. I took Adam's hand then. It was a beautiful night. I fell a little bit in love, and then a lot. You have the most beautiful ears, he said, as he put my hair behind them. In the end, we decided to keep the dog. It turned out to be a she, and we named her Betsy and taught her how to not be sexist or racist or bigoted in any way. And as for Adam and I, well, we spent 100 years together, many of them great. And though the breakup was amicable, I cried a little anyways. Here's what I know. Someone from my life mattered a lot to me. We had an irreplaceable relationship that was one in a million. Sometimes I'd write him or her a letter. My dear you, I'd start it.
Oh, I can't. I'm not on camera.
Woo, yeah, Bert. I love that prose. Okay. Anyway, that prose got me an interp, guys. But that said, we are on to our second to last act. And this one will be done by the lovely Callie McQuilkin. But first, this is the moment in every circus when we call for audience participation. So what we need from you is quotes for this event. Now we are asking you to direct message Carson Taylor, my co-host, where he will choose the quote that Callie will do her magic trick with. So, like I said, everyone, please send those quotes Carson's way, and Carson will come through with one of those in just a moment. I'll give you just a second to think. Okay, so now let me tell you about the lovely Callie McQuilkin. She's one of our LP of event coaches, coordinators, and she is also the kind of person who could convince you very well to cut your own head off and make you think you're silly for not having done it years ago. Callie is great. Oh, Ben's yelling at me for not saying, or Glenn's yelling at me for not saying quotation. Sorry, I don't do it impromptu. But anyway, so Carson, how we doing on those quotes? Are they coming in so we can get our lovely Lady McQuilkin on the stage?
Absolutely. All right. For this trick, thank you for participating. And I'm going to let you know how we're going to do it in advance. No tricks up the sleeve, no freaky things that we're going to keep from you. Now, in an impromptu, we get quotations, and we're going to give 3 of those quotations to Callie, who is going to pick one. And as soon as she picks it, we're going to give her a 15-second window to pick it. She has to start prepping, and she will, from that point, have 7 minutes to give the speech that you're going to hear. And I'll be giving her time signals, counting down first verbally every 30 seconds, and then giving her hand signals once she starts speaking of 5 minutes on down, and then 30 seconds, 15, and then 5 seconds to the ground. All right, so I'm going to go into 3 top answers, and Callie, as soon as I'm done reading them, you can tell us, you can start prepping. Is that all right for you?
That sounds great. Would you also mind, so you're gonna message me them in the chat, or you're gonna read them out loud, just so I'm clear?
I will read them out loud if that's all right. And I will also I will send whichever one in the chat. I'll send them all in the chat as well. All right.
Okay, that sounds perfect, just so I can reread at the end.
All right.
Can I ask a few more questions, Carson? Are
Of
we doing
course.
15 seconds to read the quotation, or just straight in?
We're going to go 15 seconds to read the quotation and then straight in.
Beautiful. And then this is to the audience. If you guys wouldn't mind just holding off on the chat messages until the end of the speech, that will help me just find the quote instead of sifting through the rest of the messages. That would be great.
Right.
Awesome.
While we're compiling our answers, now you know that this was not pre-planned and there is no trickery involved. Now, I will start setting them in. As soon as I've sent all of them, I will read them aloud, and then your 15 seconds will start. All right, so. Finally. Oh, did I not? Hold up 1 second. I sent those privately.
You're up in the suspense, that's all.
Yes, always more suspense. All right, I'll read these out aloud. The first quotation: anytime someone tells me I can't do something, I want to do it more, by Taylor Swift. There are no stupid questions, only stupid people, by Mr. Hat. And a teacher takes a hand, opens a mind, and touches a heart, by Unknown. Now your 15 seconds will start. Time begins. 30 seconds. One minute.
I don't like math very much, but someone who really does is Yuri Treisman out at UC Berkeley in California. He's a professor of calculus there. And he was looking at his class of students in the 1990s and noticed that some of them weren't doing very well. But instead of pursuing Berkeley's usual strategy, which is to put those students in a remedial course, he decided he was actually going to throw them into a harder class. Now, if I were those students, I would say that's a really bad idea. But in putting the students in the more difficult course, in offering them a challenge to excel, rather than just ensuring they wouldn't fail, Yuri Treisman noticed they did better. And it's this idea that obstacles motivate us to achieve our goals that's reflected in today's words from the beautiful Taylor Swift. Anytime someone tells me I can't do something, I want to do it more. What Swift is telling us is that the obstacles we face in our lives only motivate us to succeed. And we should agree with her because challenges motivate the greatest action. But we know this for two reasons. First, that it's opposition that can drive us sometimes more than support. And second, because every obstacle offers a goal. But first, when we're looking at the opposition that's around us, sometimes when people tell us, no, you can't do that, it only motivates us to try harder. And we know this through two examples. First, that of Will Shortz, and second, that of Sarah Turney. Now, Will Shortz is one of the most famous cruciverbalists on the planet. That's a really fancy word for crossword puzzle editor, and it actually appears in a lot of his puzzles. Will Shortz is the crossword puzzle editor of the New York Times, but he didn't start out as a puzzle master. Back when he was in third grade, he was writing an essay about what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he said, I want to be a puzzle maker. His teacher said, that job doesn't exist, and gave him a C on his paper. But it's exactly because of the opposition he faced that Shortz says, I can solve this problem, this puzzle in my own life and do what I've always wanted to do, showing us that opposition is sometimes what drives us to succeed. We know, though, that it's the obstacles we face in life that can encourage us to try harder, also through Sarah Turney. Now, when Turney was 12 years old, her sister Alyssa disappeared. And for years, the police ruled the case a kidnapping. But Turney thought there was something funny, and so 8 years later, she encouraged police to reopen the case. Now, you might look at this and say, okay, 8 years have gone by, you were 12, what evidence do you have that this wasn't a kidnapping? What Turney did, though, is she didn't let that stop her. She took to Facebook and made a bunch of posts. Nobody listened. She took to Instagram, said reopen the case, and no one listened. And finally, she took to TikTok, everyone's favorite platform, and built a following. This November, police reopened the trial, and her father was actually just indicted. Attorney showed us that her determination, because she was faced with obstacle after obstacle, motivated her to succeed, showing us the power of challenge to drive action. But we also know that it's the challenges we face in life that drive our successes, because every obstacle offers a goal. We know this first through Freedom to Marry, and second through the Straw Hat Riots. Now, Freedom to Marry was a campaign for gay marriage that was started by Evan Wolfson in 2003. And he noticed that he was having a really hard time persuading Americans to support gay marriage. But because he had that obstacle in place, he had the challenge he was facing, he knew how to frame his goal. He said, okay, my goal today is I'm gonna win one state ballot measure in Minnesota for gay marriage. He put his efforts on that, and he did. Then he said, I'm gonna win Maine. He did. And by 2015, after years of trying, 36 states had passed ballot measures for gay marriage. all because Wilson was able to turn his obstacle into a goal he could pursue. But we can see too that every obstacle offers a goal, also through the straw hat riots in New York City. Now, if you think 2020 is crazy, try 1925. See, in 1925, people were so obsessed about the idea that you couldn't wear a straw hat into September that I kid you not, there were mass riots in the streets. In 1924, a man was murdered for wearing a straw hat in New York. It was insanity. Calvin Coolidge, though, looked at the situation and said, I see there's an obstacle here. As the president, I guess I have the power to intervene. And he was able to reframe that obstacle into a goal, stopping the riots. His solution? At the risk of death, wearing a straw hat himself into the New York City streets. And when people looked at him, they said, oh, it's a president. He's doing it. I guess it's okay. And they accepted and calmed down. No straw hat riots anymore. It's exactly because Coolidge was able to look at the obstacle, assess the situation he was facing, and present a goal that he was able to move forward. But returning to the words of Taylor Swift, anytime someone tells me I can't do something, I want to do it more. Swift is telling us that it's challenge that motivates action, because opposition can sometimes drive us greater than support, and because every obstacle offers a goal. Now, Yuri Treisman could have given up. He could have placed his students in a remedial math course, but it's exactly because he pushed himself, faced the challenge, that him and they succeeded.
Well done, Callie, a masterpiece. And folks at home, I know you can't tell how she did it, but you can always try and figure it out. Now, last but not least, we may be out of fancy magic tricks for the day, but we have one more card up our sleeves, and that would be Ben Feldman, the resident comedian clown of the speech team. And I only feel comfortable saying that because he is in charge of me and is nice enough not to ruin me for it. Now, Ben is a diplomacy major in the College Scholar Program, and his hometown is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, Ben can make anyone laugh. He can make anyone, and this is a bit more important, feel a little bit better about their day after getting to talk to him. And he is genuinely one of the best student leaders on campus, and I will die on that hill. Now, he's going to be doing an ADS for us today, and I'll let Margot explain that one to you.
So yes, the lovely man in the bow tie will be doing an ADS. Now, an ADS stands for after dinner speaking. It's kind of like what you'll see John Oliver do on TV, essentially taking a topic that is serious and important and putting it into relevant, funny terms to make you care about why it should change the world. And that's what an after dinner speech is. Someone who would get on a soapbox after dinner and tell you why the world should be shaped the way they do, with a couple laughs or bananas thrown in. So with nothing further ado, I will pass it off to Ben. Ben, you're muted.
Thank you. That's the most common way to start a Zoom call, with someone saying you're muted. All right, can we confirm that everybody can see and hear me all right? Awesome. My granddad turns to me and says, "Do you want to be a real man?" And I said, "Yes, desperately." And he says, "Well, rule number one, never wear moisturizer or sunscreen. Skincare is for women. Just be stronger than the sun." And I said, "Interesting. You got any other rules?" And he said, "As a matter of fact, number two, never bring an umbrella. But don't enjoy the rain either. Just be angry when you get wet and lash out." And I said, "Fascinating. What else?" And he said, "Well, as for COVID, never wear a face mask, especially if your state has a mask mandate. I mean, man. Date? Those are for Homo sapiens. Number four, no CNN. Only Politico of November 19th, 2020, which shows that a surprising number of men are refusing to wear face masks because they perceive them as unmanly. It's the latest incarnation of a precarious interpretation of masculinity that's confrontational, dog-eat-dog, zero-sum, and anti-feminist. We've dismissed toxic masculinity before, but it's just impossible to ignore, like Glenasuo Asante, caffeine or no caffeine. According to Gallup of July 13th, 2020, Just 8% of women say they never wear a face mask. But more than double that, 20% of men say they never wear a face mask. It's no wonder that COVID-19 has killed more men than women in every single state. Toxic masculinity is as performative as it is deadly. So today, let's use male mask refusal as a lens to explore the causes of toxic masculinity, the effects that are especially acute during the pandemic, and some solutions fit for the Zoom era. Because if you're posting hashtag mask for mask on Grindr, you better be wearing your literal damn face mask. Senator Kennedy of Louisiana argued against mask mandates by proclaiming, "I don't want to have to wear a face mask in the shower," which is exactly what you'd say if you had a kink for wearing a face mask in the shower. Senator Kennedy, I'll bet you're not wearing anything beneath that mask, you tricky minx. Rawr. That's a lot to unmask, so let's start with the causes. Proliferation of anti-femininity and early socialization. But first, proliferation of anti-femininity. There have always been toxic men, but it hasn't always been this easy for toxicity to spread. According to the May 16th, 2020 Daily Beast, 1960s second wave feminism was a galvanizing moment for men who feared losing their status on the social hierarchy. Their vision of masculinity, which was adversarial to both feminism and femininity, stayed on the fringes until it found a home on a new platform, the internet, an eclectic mix of cat memes, terrorism, and pornography, sometimes all at once. Because of the internet, you can instantly stream a video of Fox Nation's Tommy Lahren destroying Joe Biden by saying he might as well carry a purse with that face mask. Sick burn, Tommy. Where'd you get it? The toilet store? Next, early socialization, like broadcasting a Bernie Sanders speech to your child in the womb. From a young age, boys learn that manhood, unlike womanhood, is weirdly precarious, like a circus clown high on stilts. And Meth, Vox of August 10th, 2020 explains that manhood is hard to win and easy to lose. It's not something you just attain at a certain age. Because of that, boys who slip up are ostracized and lose a part of their identity, according to the June 29th, 2020 Scientific American, which is an oxymoron. Men think they're being rugged and individualistic by foregoing protection. But this refusal embodies a fear of what others will think of them. That's more ironic than Andrew Cuomo attending the Women's March. Oh, wait. Speaking of sexual predators, remember when Donald Trump took off his eclipse glasses to look directly into the sun? Do you really think you're stronger than the sun? The sun? Like the number of suns that Donald Trump loves, there are two effects, and neither is named Eric: anti-feminine echo chambers and violence as a coping mechanism. But first, anti-feminine echo chambers. According to the MIT Technology Review of February 7th, 2020, the manosphere refers to the online community of alt-right misogynists, and its ranks are growing, including even those men on the less extreme end of the toxicity spectrum, like those guys who introduce themselves as the future president. The implicit argument they make on these forums is that public health measures are for the weak, because real men don't fear death. According to the October 29th, 2020 Ms. Magazine, the unmarried daughter of Mrs. Magazine, 13 men got themselves hyped up online about mask mandates, tried to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and got busted. They called themselves the Wolverine Watchmen, which is what happens when you let Marvel nerds haze each other with nunchucks. Next, violence as a coping mechanism. Men come to understand their self-worth in terms of power and dominance. It's rooted in the very language we speak, what novelist Ocean Vuong calls a lexicon of violence. Think, you're killing it. You slay me. Blow them up. Carpet bomb that village. During the pandemic, we need good coping mechanisms. Men have fewer tools in their toolboxes, though I had a lot of tools in my last extemp round. According to a December 4th, 2020 article from The Conversation, which my parents forgot to give me at age 13, Reports of domestic violence have surged during the pandemic by as much as 21% in some areas. Toxic masculinity has always been a force for destruction, but now it's becoming more violent. Face masks conjure the AIDS-old debate over getting men to wear condoms, a protective accessory that saves lives, but that's low-key annoying. Since the real problem is ignorance, I'll demonstrate. See, Mom and Dad, this is what happens when you don't give me the conversation. Ah! Well, clearly I need some solutions. So let's start with these two. Deplatform toxic masculinity and teach alternative norms of masculinity. But first, deplatform toxic masculinity. After January 6th, every tech company gave Trump the boot, including Grindr. That's actually where he met Pence. They had the same mask for mask bio. Mashable of January 12, 2021 explains why deplatforming works. The most committed members of any community will follow it anywhere, but less engaged members drop off completely. Like me on Duolingo. Proof that deplatforming works? Insurrectionists found it significantly harder to disrupt the inauguration without the ability to coordinate on social media, according to The Nation of January 22nd, 2021. But we can't stop at insurrectionists because toxicity should have no avenue to proliferate online. Stop Hate for Profit is an umbrella group that started a social media campaign to deplatform hate speech. You can follow the link that I'll post in the chat after this to find their social media toolkit, complete with shareable posts, graphics, and a petition. Don't engage with this community online. Shut it down. Finally, teach alternative norms of masculinity. Since it's much harder to change attitudes once they're ingrained, schools must shape the conversation during these crucial years. As my local drug dealer used to say, you gotta start early. Before we can dismantle toxic masculinity, we need to recognize it and call it out. According to the Times Educational Supplement of January 3rd, 2021, I wrote a letter to my school board and asked them to incorporate lessons on toxic masculinity into their curriculum. After this, I'll post that letter so that you can send it to the members of your school board. Because right now, we're teaching boys to be real men, not good men. And for some reason, there's a difference. Today, after unmasking the causes, effects, and solutions, we can see that toxic masculinity is as performative as it is deadly. So let's take off our metaphorical emotional masks and put on our literal face masks. And moisturizer too, granddad. Wrinkly ass old man. One last resource. I'm gonna share my contact information in the chat. If you need someone to talk to, reach out to me. I'm your man.
Amazing, Ben. Thank you so much. Now, wait for that link in the chat, but unfortunately, like all circuses, we're not here forever. And unfortunately, we have to pack up our tent. We will be in town for the next couple of days for Alumni Weekend, but then we are going to move our tent all the way out to Nationals and then Nationals a little bit after that for NFA. Now, thank you all again so much for coming. And now I'm going to throw it back to Margot and the rest of the team to see you out. Thanks so much.
Yeah, just to reiterate, Carson, thank you so much for joining us today. And we mean it. Once you're part of this circus or the speech family, whether you've competed or you've been the family to a competitor, you're with us forever. And we're so grateful to have you. And with that said, if you want to stay up to date on our speech family and what we're doing in the next couple of weeks, I'm dropping the link to our newsletter in the chat. Now that comes out once every 2 weeks, where you can stay up to date on what our speech team is doing, where we're going, and what time Glenn wakes up in the morning, depending on the week. So moving on, thank you so much. And I'm going to pass it off to Ben and Chloe for some closing remarks.
Yes, a huge thank you to Margot and Carson for being amazing MCs for this showcase tournament. We cannot thank you enough for the energy that you bring to the team. Other thank yous that we want to do. Thank you to our alumni for helping us today and for the upcoming weekend and for just always being a backbone of support. Thank you to our amazing team. Our heart and soul goes into everything that we do, and we cannot thank you enough for putting in your heart and soul into the team. Ben?
And then, of course, I get the honor of having one very important thank you to our coach, Brandon Joel, without whom none of this would have been possible. It's been remarkable growth that I'll let Chloe talk about in just a moment. But honestly, Brandon has made all of this possible and has done so much for our community, not only doing so much to reach out to our alumni and reestablish this program in a real way, but spending countless hours with us, coaching, and giving us everything we need to ensure our success.
Thank you very much, Brandon. And like Ben said, we have grown so much as a team, not only in sheer numbers, but also what we're capable of doing. I'm sure everyone on this team holds the speech team very close and dear to their college experience. And thank you, Brandon, for making that possible. And thank you to the team. We are very proud of you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you all again. I love my captains, I love my team. I love you alumni. Sam and Ariel, thank you all for your support, and we will keep you all updated on the road to nationals. Woo! So everyone keep up to date on all of our social medias, and we will be posting results soon. Thank you all again and have a good night.